Hello, I am getting ready to continue making the McCall's M8132 jacket, which is this piece right here, view C. I've already cut out my pieces and I've already added the interfacing, which is step 1, and it's added to pieces 24, 26, and 27. And now I'm getting ready to start step 2, which is to make pleats in front, which is piece 21. On outside, crease along lines of small circles, bring creases to lines of large circles, based across lower edge, and press. So we're going to get piece number 21 and start there with making the pleats. One pleat. And I know I did put the markings on the back side of my fabric just because it's hard to see on the front. So the second one. And I'm going ahead and doing the lining because I know it's going to have to be done as well. So I might as well get that out of the way because I'm not very confident in pleats yet. So it's all fairly new to me. Down a little bit. No. That. 3 pleats. And then I'll go ahead and do the lining pleats. I'm just creasing it and then on the small dot line and folding it up against the larger dot line. And I'm pinning it. It says to baste it, which I will do. I just like pinning it to hold it in place for me. One, fold the other one up, and line that up. And then and I'm just using an old bed sheet for lining. It's actually really soft, but it works well. Excuse me. All right, and then that is it for the pleats. And I did both the outer fabric and the other side of the outer fabric, and then both sides for the lining. I went ahead and took care of that. And future Susie here. My microphone was turned off during this part of the sewing process, so sorry about that. Right now I'm just basting the lining fabric, and I end up basting all 4 of the pieces, the outer fabric, pleats, and the lining pleats. And I still didn't realize my microphone was off. It's new, so still getting used to using it. This is step 3 and 4, where we're going to stitch the side back sections to side edges of back, and then press seams towards side back. And I do the outside fabric and the lining fabric as well, because I know it's going to have to be done. And here I'm just clipping the lining pieces together, just like I did the outer fabric pieces. And here's about where I found out that my microphone was still off. So I fixed it after this. So the directions say next to do a prick stitch on here, and I'm not for that. I'd rather do things on the machine if I can, and I don't mind a top stitch. I don't need an invisible stitch there. My fabric that I chose is kind of loud, not just a plain fabric, so I'm not worried about seeing the stitch. It's gray thread that I'm using, so it'll kind of blend in anyway. But regardless, I do not mind having it as a top stitch instead of a prick stitch. So that is what I'm going to do. I will lengthen my stitch. Do that on the other end. Don't mind that at all. Next step is to stitch back and front together at shoulders and sides. And then we're going to press the seams open and shoulder seams toward the front. Press side seams open and shoulder seams toward front. And I'll do that on both the outside fabric and the lining fabric because I know that's going to have to be done later. Might as well do it now. I'll clip those. And then I will sew the 5/8 seam allowance at the side seams and the shoulder seams. All right, those clip together and go sew them. I think my microphone wasn't on earlier whenever I showed this, but I got these little magnetized bowls at Menards, which is like local hardware, like Home Depot, almost home improvement store. Not very expensive, but they hold your pins and clips magnetized. And I also have my phone stand, and I will put it on there, and it sits right there by my sewing machine. Very handy. I'll finish sewing these up, and then I need to get my phone on my charger. Silly me. Didn't have it on my charger all day while I was working. And do it for now. I will continue on a little later, but I am going to continue sewing the front and back bodice pieces together, or not bodice, jacket pieces together, and go from there. All right, so I already did the stay stitching on the jacket and the lining. I went ahead and did that. And then with step 8 for the collar, it's stitch collar part pieces 24 sections together, leaving notched edge open. And then you're supposed to trim it, and then you turn it, press, baste raw edges together, sew 1/4 inch from finished edges using a prick stitch, which I will just do it more like a top stitch and use my machine, just because I don't like hand sewing. But that's just me. All right, so I'm going to stitch these sections together, leaving the notched edge, which is the inside, open. And then I'll turn it and press it. trim that off a little bit. Better scissors. That part again. Turn the collar. And that next step says to turn, press, and then baste the raw edges together. And then sew 1/4 inch from finished edge using prick stitch. So I will baste the inner edge here. And then I'm just going to do a top stitch along the edge. All right. So I'll go baste that and do the top stitch. All right, we are at the point of 10, step 10, which says to pin collar to neck edge, interfaced side down, clipping jacket where necessary, and to baste that. So curved edge for now. I'll go baste that along that edge to hold it in place. And then the next step's going to be to do the lining, which I pretty much already did. So I'll baste that and then reconvene. And since I already did the lining, that is 11, 12, 13. And then, so now I'm going to 14. Step 14 says with right sides together. Pin lining to jacket, over collar, matching symbols and seams, clipping lining where necessary, stitch front opening and neck edges, trim. It says with right sides together. Matching seams. All right. And it says stitch front opening and neck edges. All right, so I'm going to go sew the front opening, neckline, and then the other side of the front opening. All right, I don't see where it said to do this, but I did go in here and trim the side, the front opening seams. I didn't like how thick it was. And I think I'm going to top stitch underneath the collar just because it seems to be not laying quite flat. So I'm going to top stitch that just underneath the collar. Hopefully that'll help that part of it. Go from there, and then it says to baste the armhole and lower raw edges together. So it's wanting you to baste this around the armholes and then the under edge. I'll do that. I'll baste the armholes and the lower edge. And then I think I am going to go ahead and top stitch along here. So I did baste the lower edge and the armholes. And I did do the top stitch under the collar, which does seem to make it set better. So glad I did that. And then the next step is to gather. We're on step 16, starting with the sleeve. We're going to gather the upper edge of sleeve between small circles as shown. So on the sleeve, we're going to gather the top up there between the two dots on each of the sleeves. And then we'll stitch the side seam after that. I'm going to go gather the top and then stitch the side seam of each of the sleeves. And it says to prepare the lining the same way. So I will gather and stitch the side seam for both the sleeve and the lining on both sleeves. I've already gathered the sleeves and the lining, and I've also stitched the edge of the sleeves and the linings, and I'm on my last sleeve here. And I didn't see it mentioned right on this step, but I am pressing open the seams just because it makes it easier later when you want it to lay flat and everything. And then the next step is to do a stay stitch on the underarm of the lining. We're going to stay stitch the underarm of sleeve lining, low notches. So from there to there. And we'll do a stay stitch there. And that's step 18. Next step is to turn in seam allowance on the sleeve lining, upper edge up here. And I'm going to use this tape, make it easier. Comes in I get it from Amazon, comes in a packet of 3. I really like it. Next step is to slip sleeve lining over sleeve, matching seams, spaced lower raw edges together. do that with both sleeves, and it said to baste the lower raw edges. So I'll go do that. I've inserted the sleeves into the lining, and I'm going to go baste the lower raw edges of each of the sleeves. Next step is to sew ends of each cuff section together below large circle as shown. So going here, 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 and here. Okay, the next step is step 22, stitch uninterfaced cuff sections to interfaced cuff sections, breaking stitching at large circles and leaving notched edge open. And then trim. This one was kind of confusing, but I believe you turn that where right sides together, of course. And line up your seam. Straighten it out. And then I guess just sew seam along the edge there. And then you're going to leave the notch edge open. That'll work. Because this is your notched edge, which is the narrower side. So you're going to leave this open, but you're going to sew all along there and stopping there. 1 cup. All right, I guess that was right. All right, got the 2 cuffs. Next step is to baste the raw edge, which is that end of the cuff, and then to also prick stitch 1/4 of an inch from the finished edge. Of course, I'll top stitch it instead. So do that and go from there. So I'm going to baste and then I'll top stitch from here all the way around the edge on both the cuffs. So next step is 24, which says pin right side of cuff to wrong side of sleeve. Stitch again 1/4 inch away and seam allowance, press seam towards sleeve. So the picture is interesting, but this is what makes sense to me. This is what I'm doing as the right side of my cuff. And I have that facing the lining of my sleeve, matching up seams and everything. And then I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch away, and then another stitch, another row of stitching in the seam allowance, and then we'll turn it, see if that works. And the next step is to fold the cuff up on the outside. Press the seam up and then fold the cuff. So I'll go press the seam, trim off all these strings, and then fold the cuff up and press lightly. And there's how the sleeves turned out. Now the next step is to put them, attach them to the this in and gather it as we go. Matching notches. And then once this is gathered in where it needs to be, we'll sew that. And we'll stitch it twice like we did with the ends of the sleeve, with the cuff. Do one and then another. Alright. Alright, I did end up putting the sleeves in. I also did not the best job, but I did stitch in the lining of the sleeves. And then we are on the band and finishing with right sides together, pin interfaced band, piece number 27 to lower edge of jacket, matching centers and symbols, placing squares at side seams, stitch, and then trim. So I got it clipped on there for now. I will do the, stitch that and then trim that. I also went ahead and did the next step, which is to reinforce the upper edge of the band right here through the circle, and then clipped it, and then I have folded it down to 5/8, and I will cut off to 3/8, trim that. So I'll go sew this on. Once I get that trimmed down, I'll be on step 31 for that. So I will go attach that, trim it, and then clip this off. Alright, we did do that on there. Have that trimmed to 3/8. And the next step was to, with right sides together, pin band facing to band, matching symbols, and having raw edges even, stitch between large circles as shown. It looks like supposed to stitch from this large circle around and on the bottom here, all the way around to here and then up here. So that's what I'm going to do, because the next step is to then turn that around, turn that out, and then slip stitch, which I won't slip stitch, I will top stitch. Alright, so we will try that. So I'm going to sew down along the bottom and up to the other large dot over here, and then we'll turn it around and see how that is. I'm just going to sew that down over the seam here. Just to slip stitch it, but if I can get around doing that, I don't want to do anything by hand, so I will just pretty much top stitch it if I can. Get it straightened out, and then I will maybe do a stitch across it. Next one is to do the prick stitch all along the edges. So I'll probably just do a top stitch all around the edges. Pull out the basting stitches that are there. And then see if I have a buckle put on there. Alright, I'll get that straightened out, and then I'm going to just do a top stitch around it. Just change my thread for light turquoise beige color, so, and I set my stitch length to 3.5. And there's the final Spencer jacket. I did end up doing a top stitch over the bottom of the cuff. And added a button.